皆さん、こんにちは。今日は数字と電話番号と住所を勉強します。So today we're learning numbers, your phone number and your street address. You don't really include these in your self-introductions, so all we've done so far is to include all the information that we learned throughout the weeks into our self-introductions. This week is going to be a little bit different. This week we'll give you the questions and responses for the following two subjects, your phone number and your street address. Before we can start doing that though, we have to get started by learning our numbers. What I will do is show you a number, its kanji, how you read it in hiragana, and how it's read in English. Okay, so let's get started. The first number we have is the number 1, which is pronounced ichi. Ichi. Number 1 is a very simple kanji, and actually the simplest kanji because it has only one stroke that goes straight across. Next we have ni. Ni is also very simple in the fact that it's very close to the number 1. It's the second most simple kanji. Ni has 2 strokes, the first one being smaller than the second one. Ni, 2. Next we have 3, which is san. San follows the same sort of pattern, but you have a longer stroke at the top, a smaller stroke in the middle, and an equal stroke at the bottom. San being 3. The next number we'll have a look at is 4. Now 4 is a little different because it has 2 different pronunciations, yon and shi. Shi is considered bad luck because it's very close to the Chinese pronunciation of death. So we use yon more than we use shi a lot of the time, unless you're being told otherwise. Yon is written as such. Really, when it comes to numbers, for the time being, we expect you to be able to recognize them more than write them. So here we have yon, which is very close to a box with 2 small diagonal lines running at each of the top corners. Next we have go, which is number 5. Go is really interesting because if you do it properly, it works much like the tally system. So number 5, go, if you do it properly, can work like a tally. You start off with the first stroke going across, the second stroke going down, third stroke going across again, 4, and then 5 to finish it off. So altogether, those are 5 strokes, being a tally of 5. So instead of writing the 4 lines with a slash right through it, as we do in English, you can just write go and put a circle around it, meaning a tally of 5. Next we have roku, which is 6. Roku is written as such. Roku. Notice that when I say roku, it's neither an R or an L. When you say R sounds in Japanese, you don't usually move your lips or your teeth. Your tongue touches the top of the roof of your mouth rather than your teeth or your lips. Ra, la. Ra, la. Can you see that when I say ra, my lips move, but when I say la, my lips don't? So use the roof of your mouth to pronounce the L sounds. Roku. Next we have nana, or shichi. Again, this is a number with 2 different pronunciations. So it is the number for 7. Nana/shichi. Shichi is also used not as often due to the fact that it is very close to the word for death, again. Next we have hachi, which is very simple. It's 2 lines running diagonally, much like Mount Fuji. Hachi being 8. And next we have 9, which is ku or kyu. Kyu or ku. Kugatsu, kyunin. Depending on the way that you're ending or incorporating your number into a different word, the usage of Q or ku, much like yon, chi, nana and chichi, will change. Lastly, we have 10, which is ju. Ju. Almost looking exactly like a cross. So ju. And one last thing, before we finish learning our numbers, let's learn 100, which is hyaku. Now that you've learned 1 to 10 and 100, you can count all the way up to 999. And you do this through a very simple method of putting the smallest number before a larger number. So, for example, we have 10, which is ju. Then we have ni, which is 2. If ni was behind 2, such as ju ni, it would be 12. 10 plus 2 is 12. If instead we had the smaller number in front of the larger number, it would modify it. So if we had ni ju, it would be 20. So 2 lots of 10. Ni ju ni, 22. So you can see that if you place a smaller number in front of a larger number, it changes the way it is said. So 2 lots of 10 rather than 2 plus 10. 2 lots of 10 is 20. 10 plus 2 is 12. Because you know how to say 100, you can also do ni hyaku, being 200. Yon hyaku, being 400, and so on and so forth. Remember that if you're making multiples of a number, to have the smaller number in front of the larger number. And if you want smaller denominations of a number, so 12 for instance, 10 plus 2, you put the smaller number after the larger number. 10 plus 2, as opposed to 2 lots of 10. Now we're going to have a look at how we say our phone number. Now it's a little different in Japanese when you're asking somebody their phone number. The phrase is, 電話番号は何ですか? 電話番号は何ですか? 電話番号 means phone number. 電話 means phone, and 番号 means number. 電話番号 phone number は何ですか? Remember that when we have a question that uses nan, or a question word such as doko or itsu, what we need to do is to take that question word out and fill the rest in with our response. Also, when answering a question, you remove the question marker, which is ka, which acts as a question mark at the end of a Japanese sentence. So, for the phrase, or for the question rather, 電話番号は何ですか? What you have to do is take the nan from 電話番号, take it out, and then input your answer. To respond to somebody else's question of what is your phone number, what you need to do is to arrange your numbers as such. Depending on if you're giving a phone or a mobile number, you'll say it like this. You might have 4 numbers, no, another 4 numbers. So 1, 2, 3, 4, no, 5, 6, 7, 8. When we're giving numbers in English, we often have that pause. 9607, pause, 5038. So when we have that pause in Japanese, we say no instead. If you're giving a mobile, you might start off with 0421, no, 333, no, 333. So you're putting the no where you would usually pause when giving somebody your own phone number. Okay, so to answer the question, 電話番号は何ですか? You need to say, 私の電話番号は, so my phone number is, put your phone number and then des. So, let's say my phone number is 9876-5342. I would say, 私の電話番号は9876-5432です。My phone number is 9876-5432. And that's how you can answer the phrase, what is your phone number? Next, we're going to be learning how to say, what is your street address? Now, this is going to be a little bit more difficult because many of you haven't quite learned all your katakana yet. So katakana being the alphabet used for loan words or foreign words. Okay, so the question is, 住所は何ですか? 住所 means street address. So asking, 住所は何ですか? What do you think it means? Where nan is the question word for what? So 住所は何ですか is, what is your street address? This is going to be very, very difficult because you need to be able to say your street name, your suburb in katakana. So the Japanese way of saying loan or foreign words. So let's say, for instance, I lived in Dubois on 1 Street, for example. I would say, 私の住所は1ウィンジワラストリート. So, ストリート not street, ストリート. 私の住所は1ウィンジワラストリートダボです. Okay, so when somebody asks you for your street address, I'll ask you the question, 住所は何ですか? I want you to answer the number of your street, the name of your street, followed by what type of street it is, a street, road, crescent, avenue, etc., your town or suburb, and then des. 1ウィンジワラストリートダボです. Now I'm going to ask you the question. I want you to think about it for 5 seconds and then give me an answer. あなたの住所は何ですか? Now answer the question. あ、そうですか. So kanji was initially a system that was based upon pictographs. Pictographs being, pictures or symbols that are representative of an idea or a thought, and they often look like pictures, much like the Egyptian hieroglyphics. So a good example of a pictograph can be seen in the kanji for I, which is met. Now met originally would have appeared as this. Over the vast amount of time between, ancient China and modern day Japan, it has turned into a more sophisticated, clearer symbol, being met. So that's the general idea behind some of the kanji that you'll be learning, but mainly the kanji today don't often have pictographic meanings. There are certain radicals that we call that tell us what these meanings are. So let's get started with an explanation of how to read and write certain kanji. What you need to be careful of is the fact that Japanese has two readings, usually. We have the Chinese reading, which is called the on reading, and then we have the Japanese reading, which is called the kun reading. So the symbol for China and the sun of Japan. So on and kun. Kun readings, the Japanese readings, are often seen as words by themselves. But the Chinese readings, which were how the Chinese originally pronounced them, are used in kanji combinations. So more than one kanji together. And I'll give you some good examples as we go along. Okay, so the first kanji we'll be learning is the kanji for what? The question word what, that you would have seen quite a lot within your lessons. So, what? Now, it is written as such. You start off with a diagonal line, a line in the middle going vertically, a line going horizontally but not touching the other two lines, and then not close to the end but almost, a line going vertically with a tick at the bottom, as such. Next, in what we have, or nani, we have a box. Now to do a box in Japanese, you need to have the first vertical stroke, a horizontal followed by a vertical, as in one stroke altogether, and then you have to close off the box. Before you close off the box in certain kanji, they will have other strokes, other lines inside of it. Before you can close up a box, you need to draw exactly what is inside of it before you can finalize it. That's like putting a full stop on the kanji, or the full stop on the symbol. Okay, so that is nani, and it's written as nani in the kun reading, the Japanese reading, meaning nani by itself is a word. Nani ga arimasu ka? What is there? Then we have the on reading, which is nan, which is often written in katakana because it's a foreign word. You would have seen nan used in lots of the questions that you're asked inside of your tutorials. For example, we have nan, nanjin, and then nansai. So nanjin, nansai. Nanjin being your nationality, and nansai being your age. What person or what nationality, what age. So that's why you can use the kanji combinations, nan. If it was by itself, just like that, it would be read as nani. Okay, so the next thing we'll be learning is jin. Jin means person and is written as such. Firstly, we have the first diagonal stroke running down the left side, then a stroke that meets in the middle on the right side. Now jin in the kun reading, or person in the kun reading, is pronounced as hito. So the kun and the on. Pronounced as hito. In the on reading, it is pronounced as jin, nin, and many other things. So this is used mainly when talking about people. Nanjin desu ka? What nationality are you? Or nannin desu ka? How many people are there? So the phrase that you've learned so far is nanjin desu ka, meaning nationality. And it really means, very quite literally, what person are you? So nanjin, because we're taking the on reading, because it is a combination of two characters together. The kun reading is the word that can be used by itself. So hito is the word for person and can be used by itself without a combination. These cannot. So nanjin desu ka? What nationality are you? So the next thing we'll be looking at is the kanji for mountain. Mountain is another pictograph and it appears as such. You start off with the center line running through the middle, a small flick that runs down along the bottom, and then another small line that runs vertically that comes out a little bit on both ends. It's a pictograph because it almost looks like the shape of a mountain, and it would have looked more like a mountain earlier on in ancient China. So Yama is written, mountain, mountain. So mountain can be written as Yama for mountain by itself, San or Zan. Yama, San, and Zan is one of my favorite kanji because it put together, it shows one of the quite really intense, most amazing combinations ever. So we have the combination which starts with mountain and is combined with the kanji for fire, which is ka, the ka of kayobi. So it becomes kazan, kazan altogether. So kazan is a little bit interesting because when it comes to kanji, if you have a combination of one or two or more kanji, sometimes you can guess what the word means just by looking at what is combined. For example, fire mountain here, put together in a combination, means, what might you guess? Means volcano. These two kanji put together mean volcano. So Yama can also be used when talking about Mount Fuji. For example, if you were to talk about Mount Fuji, you could say Fuji-san. Fuji-san, so Mount Fuji. And Mount Fuji is very special in the way that most mountains don't end with san, they usually end with yama. So Takayama is Mount Taka. Here, Fuji, Mount Fuji, is written as Fuji-san because the Japanese like to think as Mount Fuji as their friend, or that's how I always remembered it. If you had Taka of Takai, it would be pronounced Takayama, not Taka-san. So usually when it comes to having a mountain, you would have the name of the mountain followed by the word for mountain. Takayama. Next we'll have a look at how to write child. Child is fairly easy and you can see it in a number of different forms. So the first thing that we'll do with child is to bring a small horizontal line across, as such. Diagonally down, and then a curve. You can see that the curve in the line is quite distinct. To finish it off, you just run a line through almost the middle of the kanji. It can come about that the kanji will look like this sometimes, where the line runs through the meeting point between this part and this part of the kanji. But usually, it runs through the center, just below this tip. So child is read as ko. Don't worry about any other readings. Ko is what you need so far. When talking about a boy or a girl, you would put no in front of ko along with the sex or the gender. So you could have otoko no ko being a boy, a young boy, or you could have onna no ko being a young girl. So ko means child. The full word for child is kodomo, which you'll see quite often as a mixture of kanji and hiragana, because the kanji for domo you won't be learning for quite a while. So ko, otoko no ko, onna no ko, and it all means child. Young boy, young girl, and kodomo altogether means child. The next kanji we have is the kanji for woods, which is pronounced as ki or moku. So mokuyobi, the day of the woods or the day of the trees. So we have ki as the kun reading because by itself it means... Sorry, we have ki as the on reading, ki as the kun reading because by itself it means tree, and moku as the on reading, as in moku yobi, because it needs to be in combination with other kanji to work. So to write tree, what you need to do is start off with the horizontal line going across, the vertical line running straight through, almost like a cross, and then two curved diagonal lines running down from the center here. And that's simply how you write ki for tree. You can see that it is still very pictographic. Ki. Next, we'll be having a look at one of the most important kanji, two of the most important kanji that you'll be learning, and we'll learn them together. First thing that we'll learn is the kanji for day, or sun, which has many different readings. There are so many readings, it is incredible. So to start off with, we'll use hi as the kun reading because hi by itself means day. And then nichi and bi, sorry, not like that, as the on readings because they form parts of combinations of kanji. So here, hi by itself means day, and we'll go through the stroke order. Start off with the long vertical stroke, the horizontal stroke going across, and then down, a stroke running through the middle, and then finally closing the box off. You always need to close the box off last because you can't put anything in the box if it's closed. So put your contents in first, then close the box afterwards. So that is day. Hi, nichi, and bi. So we'll leave this kanji here because I'll be using it in a second for something amazing that you'll all love. The next kanji you'll be learning is either book or origin. Book and origin. And it is written as such. It's very similar to ki except that it has one extra stroke. So the horizontal stroke, vertical stroke, two curved diagonals, making it a bit shorter, and then the small stroke running through the center. And that is hon, which means book. Or moto in the on reading, because that comes as a combination of multiple kanji. Now, hon is very odd because you can read it as hon by itself, which means book, or in a combination of nihon. So nihon, this is the origin of the sun. That's why we call it the land of the rising sun. So it's strange that the kun reading can be used in a combination, but when it comes to the Japanese pride, I think they prefer the name of their motherland over rules. So we have ni for day, and then hon for origin. Nihon together is land of the rising sun. And it's one of the first kanji combinations that you'll be learning. So, be sure to look at this if you ever need any help with your stroke order. And if you have any questions, be sure to email me either through Edmodo or my DET address. Until then, じゃあまた来週